and learn about, like after we caught a fish, we'd break it down, and then I got lucky that I met some fishermen and I worked on a commercial tuna boat.
Yeah.
So on my days off, I'd go tuna fishing and I'd work on a commercial boat. I worked for this guy, Briggsy, who was like Quint from Jaws. Mean, nasty, call you every name in the book, but he'd take you fishing and give you experience. I mean, I caught an 800-pound bluefin tuna.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so excited because I had brought soy sauce and wasabi just in case.
Yeah.
So we catch this tuna and they take the head off it and I pull the head steaks out and slice it right there and put wasabi, and I didn't know why I wanted to do that. I just knew that that's what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And the other fishermen were like, what the fuck? And I'm like, this is like what they do.
Yeah,
like,
you guys want to have some?
Yeah, but it was just like, the instincts and, constantly just showing themselves, just the voice in my head telling me constantly, cook this way, do this, put this with it, and I never realized it till later in life that that's what was happening.
Yeah.
I was just rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
And again, lucky that I had chefs that were like, no, don't go do a bunch of cocaine with the line cooks. Like, come over here and be a chef.
Yeah.
That's what Eric did.
Yeah.
He kind of saved me at that point. And that was a good run, but the owner kind of got bored with it, I think.
Yeah.
And they brought in this guy that was the director of operations for Legal Seafood.
Okay.
And the 86 fine dining, they merged the pub menu with the fine dining menu and had just one concept. And next thing you know, they were talking about like bringing in an outside breaker, like Pen Domignon, to deliver bread instead of making bread in house.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this is going weird.
Yeah.
This isn't what we signed up for. Now I'm totally like sold on we have to make everything ourselves. I'm brainwashed 100%.
Yeah.
Not brainwashed, but educated.
Yeah.
This is how it's got to be done. And, fuck that. If, this guy's going to do it this way, then I don't want any part of it.
Yes.
But Eric's my guy. I'm ride or die, and that's to a fault, I think, at some point. I spent years with my chefs because that's, I feel loyalty is huge, and this is such a small business. Like, look, I just mentioned Dougie, and, you knew him, and you and I have never met before,
exactly.
But there's always 6 degrees of separation in our industry somehow, I became friends with Jake, and you worked for Jake, and like there's just that, so there's ties,
camaraderie always.
Yeah, you and I could probably go in that kitchen right now and throw down. We've never worked together, but just we both know the moves.
Yeah.
So it would just work. Cooks, there's a brotherhood or sisterhood or, a kinship. And so I was with Eric, and then Eric was going to get married. He brought on his fiancée to be the banquet chef.
Gotcha.
She was the banquet chef at Atlantica, and we were doing crazy weddings, so I was seeing all that. We were plating and cooking real, but it still wasn't it was like 2 protein choices, 1 veg, 1 starch, it wasn't at the point yet where, we were composed dishes for weddings.
Yes.
But we did have like a 9-course, tasting menu for weddings, and we executed that one time for 150 people. Like, that's intense,
Yeah, 100%.
Like little game bird consomme and just 9 courses of wedding intenseness, trying to get them all hot and out and in time and 20 minutes per course, and but I got to see that, I got to learn all that. Eric was getting married there. My mother had bought out my father from the diner.
Okay.
My parents got divorced.
Yeah.
My mother bought out the diner from my father.
Heard.
Because my sister had quit school and was running the diner.
Oh, okay.
And the crazy thing is the diner was originally my mother's parents' gift shop. Okay. And my father converted it
into a restaurant.
And had a 40-year, $100 a month lease.
Oh.
That my grandfather gave him.
That is fantastic.
Right. And then my parents got divorced and my grandfather passed away, and it was ugly. But the lease was bound to the property. And so when my grandmother and my aunt sold the property to another guy, he couldn't do anything with the property because my father was there with the lease.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's part of it. So my father ended up buying the property and living in the house that my mother grew up in after they got divorced.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah,
huh?
full circle. Yeah, and and then my father wanted to move to New Hampshire, so my mother bought the property back.
Mm-hmm.
And was running the restaurant with my sister.
Okay.
My mother called me. I was very close to my mother. She had moved back from Indiana. She was running the restaurant with my sister. Well, my sister's running the restaurant. My mother's working at her company. And my mother's like, restaurant's struggling. Like, it's really struggling. I got this guy, John. You may know him. He worked at Humpty Dumpty's with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Another full circle.
You feeling me, bro, right now?
It's getting Seinfeld up in this bitch.
Right. So I'm like, wait, John Haggerty? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm going to quit my job and come take his.
Yeah.
I go, I got some penance for him.
Yeah.
You took my job at Humpty's. I never forgot that.
Yeah.
I go, now. And my mother, she's like, I'm paying him like $1,000 a week. This was like in 2002.
Yeah.
She's like, and the place is a dump. Business is failing. I need help. I said, all right. So I went in. I said, but please let me be the one to tell him. He didn't even remember me.
Yeah.
But I explained. And I was like, you be careful who you burn in this business, because 15 years later.
Yeah.
Hasta la vista.
Come at you.
Right. Well, again, the camaraderie of our business, so I took over the family restaurant back where I started. And it was a dangerous, slippery slope for me. I fell out of love with food. I was just running the family diner. I started a little catering company on the side, where I would do dinner parties of 14 or less, so I could still get my tasting menus and that sort of thing, because I still wanted to cook a little bit.
Yeah.
But the diner was like, I don't know, it just felt weird. I was doing breakfast and lunch again.
Yeah.
Getting up at 3 in the morning, opening for breakfast, grinding breakfast, grinding lunch. I would open for dinner on Friday nights with like a little BYOB. Now, this place was only 22 seats.
Yeah.
Small little place. But I went from having a crew to being by myself, and the place was a shithole, so we had to catch back up. We got the place all cleaned up, got it square. I hired a guy to come in and cook. Poker had blown up, and I started playing poker. Mm-hmm. And I was going to Foxwoods, playing poker.
Yeah.
I was running a poker game out of my house.
Oh, wow. So you got into it all the way.
All the way, big time. Playing poker a lot. It's like 2005, 2006. Mm-hmm. The restaurant's doing kind of shitty because on the other side, it was near Industrial Park, and on the other side of Industrial Park, a Ruby Tuesday opened, a Wendy's opened, a Dunkin's opened, and it was easier to go. I mean, how can you go? They go to Wendy's and get a burger, fries, and a drink for $3.
Yeah.
I can't compete with that.
No, you can't.
In my little diner, even if making the bread and doing everything, I can't do that. So it was a slow decline. Mm. Dunkin' Donuts came along and wanted to buy our property. So I had run the diner for about 3 years. Dunkin' Donuts is like, we really want, this is the only commercial property on this road. We've been doing car counts. You have a drive-through. We want this piece of land.
Yeah.
I owned the house next door at the time. It's like, beautiful. I'm like, we're going to sell the place. We were going to profit a shitload of money. Mm-hmm. I was going to be able to pay off my house next door. My mother was going to be able to buy her new house. It's going to be golden. We signed the paperwork. I want to go work at a country club. I never worked in a country club. That's the only thing I haven't really done. I did a little stage at the hotel, realized I didn't like that. Mm-hmm. So I want to go work at a country club. I heard that's the life. That's chef life. You make huge money, winter off. I'm going to go work at a private club. Mm-hmm. So I had a buddy of mine, this dude, Peter Budge, who was my Cisco salesman, who I cooked for him for a minute at the Mill Wharf. He was one of the guest chefs for a second.
Yeah.
Through there when Joe was transitioning. And so he'd known me since I was 18. He had become a salesman. So he was like my salesman in Atlantica. He was my salesman, you know. I brought him to the deli barn when I took it over, and he, you know, the family restaurant. He was my salesman. So we also, you know, those guys are like agents for chefs because they're in so many kitchens. So like if I wanted a job, I would say to a sales, or if I knew somebody who needed a job, you know, anybody needs any cooks? Like I got 2, and they're in kitchens every day. Like they're in 30 kitchens a day. You know, those Cisco salesmen and stuff. So they have, you know, the power to, you know, especially if they want to place somebody, they want to place their guy to keep buying shit from them. So he was like, there's a place in Walpole Country Club that's looking for a chef, but there's a catch. You have to go be the sous chef for a summer. I was like, fuck all that.
Yeah.
And he was like, they're not going to hire you because you've never worked in a club and it's totally different. Like, how the fuck can a club be different? Like, what's different in a club? Let me tell you, bro, everything is different in a club. Country club life is fucked. So I go and interview with the GM, Bry Hall, who's a good friend of mine now. I go interview with Bry, and he says, yeah, I want you to be our chef, but you have to be the sous chef. And now you have to dumb down your resume and go interview with the chef as a sous chef. And we're going to fire him at the end of the year, and you can have his job.
Heard.
I'm like, so I got to go be undercover?
Yeah, the long game.
Right.
That's like, why did you even tell me that?
Right. You know?
Just leave it as I need to be sous chef. That's it.
Right.
Like, why?
And so I go on, and I interview, and I'm like, chef. And he's an older guy who was like a military cook.
Yeah.
You know, and then got this show. I think he worked at the Parker House way back when in Boston. And then, you know, he was at the club, running the club. It was terrible. Dave, when I'm telling you, like, every urban legend of food you could possibly imagine was going on there.
Yeah.
Was going on there. Like, they would do chicken and broccoli with... Chicken would come in with grill marks on it. And when you cut it, you could see, like, the pump. You know, it looked like a chicken nugget.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, before they, like, made chicken nuggets out of real chicken, supposedly, you know, it looked like a piece of styrofoam. They would cut that up, and then they would use the prepped garlic, you know, in the, like, sodium, whatever it is there, you know, that shit. And they would use milk, and they would thicken it with whitewash, which was flour and water. And that's how they would cook in this place. And I remember interviewing the chef, and I told him, I will make you a superstar. I'm like, let me handle a la carte. I'll do whatever you want, chef. Just let me interpret the words of your menu. Just let me cook. He's like, well, I got the new menu already written. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, you haven't released it yet. Like, just give it to me. Let me just interpret the words of it. I'll do your menu, but let me do it the way I think it should be cooked. I was like, you just run the little events we do, and you can take off. He was in his 60s.
Yeah.
So I'd go in, and he would work lunch, and I'd go in and set up dinner a la carte. And I'd send him home at like 2 o'clock, and I'd tell everybody to throw away all the meats that he did. And we would re-prep and run service. Well, how a country club works, I don't know if you ever worked in one.
No.
But there's a minimum you have to spend every quarter as a member on food.
Heard.
That's how they
support it. Yeah.
Right. You know, so like whether you go there or not, you got to spend. If you don't spend, you get a fee.
Okay.
Well, the unspent minimum at the country club at the time was $150,000. That's how much people. So, and that was like every member only had to put in $3,000.
Yeah.
Right. So that meant how many people just were like, "Fuck that! We're not eating there. We'll just give you money." And they were like, "It's a real problem. You know, the food is terrible. Can you change it?" So, I worked the summer with Nat. And it was about halfway. I mean, he had no idea, like, my resume and working, you know, with Jasper and, you know, the CDC job. I remember him pulling me on the walk-in one day going, "You're a good sous chef. You're going to be a really good chef someday," you know. And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, chef. You know, like, really appreciate it. You know, you're a good guy." And September came. His daughter got married at the club. And right after I did his daughter's wedding for him.
Yeah, yeah.
And right after the wedding, he quit. He, like, must have known.
So you're like, great.
Right.
You saw the writing on the wall.
Right. So I took the chef job there and changed the food the best way I could. But like I was told, you can never take chicken parm off the menu. Like that was the first thing he told me. You never take chicken parm off the menu. First thing I did, chicken parm was gone. We did chicken Milanese with fresh mozzarella and tomato sauce.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, what the fuck is this? This isn't chicken parm. I'm like, well, actually, it is.
Yeah.
Well, are you some sort of funny guy? I'm like, well, actually, I am. You know?
Just pissing